The morning sun glimmered across the wings of Flight 237, a passenger jet cruising from Chicago to Atlanta. Everything was calm. Laughter filled the aisles, babies slept peacefully, and the hum of the engines felt like a lullaby in the clouds. It was just another ordinary day above America. Among the 211 passengers was 16-year-old Lily Parker, a quiet, intelligent high school student traveling alone to visit her grandparents in Georgia. With her headphones on, she was sketching clouds in her notebook, unaware that within minutes her name would be remembered across the country. Halfway through the flight, turbulence struck. The cabin shook violently, coffee cups toppled and passengers gasped. The familiar "fasten seatbelt" sign blinked on. The captain's calm voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated." But before he could finish, the audio cut out. Moments later, the cockpit went silent. Inside, both pilots had fallen unconscious, their oxygen masks dangling uselessly. A sudden oxygen system failure had deprived them of air at 18,000 feet. The plane was still flying, but now no one was in control. In the cabin, panic spread quickly. The flight attendants banged on the cockpit door, shouting for the pilots, but there was no answer. The co-pilot's red alarm light was flashing. The aircraft was starting to lose altitude. Fear spread through the passengers. Some prayed, others cried. A few reached for their phones, sending desperate messages, but in row 5A, Lily looked up, her heart pounding. She had seen something like this before, in the flight simulators she used to play with her dad. Teacher Father, a retired flight instructor, had always told her, "Flying isn't about fear, it's about focus. If something goes wrong, keep your head steady." Now those words echoed in her mind. Lily stood up, her legs trembling. She approached the nearest flight attendant, whose hands were shaking as she tried to call for help on the intercom. "I think I can help," Lily said, her voice barely audible. The chief attendant turned, eyes wide. "You're just a kid." Lily swallowed hard. "If no one does something, we're all going down." For a moment, silence filled the cabin. The attendant hesitated, then, with a deep breath, nodded. "All right, come with me." They opened the cockpit door. The sight was terrifying. Both pilots slumped over, oxygen masks hanging loose, and alarms blaring from every console. The plane tilted slightly to one side, the horizon off balance. Lights flashed across the dashboard like a Christmas tree. Lily slid into the captain's seat, her hands trembling but steadying on the controls. She picked up the radio headset and said, voice cracking, "Mayday, Mayday, this is Flight 237. The pilots are unconscious. I'm 16 years old. I need help." For a few seconds there was only static. Then came a calm, grounded voice from Atlanta Air Traffic Control. "This is Controller Mark Reynolds. Copy that? Flight 237. Okay, Lily, we've got you. Just stay calm. You're doing great." The entire control room in Atlanta froze. A teenage girl was behind the controls of a Boeing aircraft at 18,000 feet. Mark's voice continued, soft and controlled. "Lily, I need you to look at the center screen. Do you see the artificial horizon?" "Yes, blue on top, brown on the bottom," she replied, her voice quivering. "Good. Keep it centered. That means your wings are level." Lily's small hands gripped the yoke tightly as she gently corrected the tilt. "Wings level. Altitude holding at 18,000 feet, she said, reading the gauges like her father had taught her. Down in the cabin, everyone was silent. A few passengers peeked toward the cockpit, whispering prayers. Mothers held their children close. The realization hit everyone. A teenage girl was flying the plane. "All right, Lily," Mark said over the radio. "We're going to guide you all the way home. You're not alone, okay?" "Okay," she whispered. Mark coordinated with the FAA and military command. Within minutes, 2 F-22 fighter jets scrambled from a nearby airbase to escort Flight 237. Their pilots radioed in, reassuring her, "We've got eyes on you, Flight 237. You're doing just fine, kid." For the next 40 minutes, Lily followed every instruction, adjusting throttle, keeping the plane level, turning slightly toward Atlanta. Sweat rolled down her forehead, but she never lost focus. Every time fear crept in, she took a deep breath and remembered her dad's voice. "Keep your head steady." Finally, Controller Mark's voice came again. "All right, Lily, we're lining you up for runway 27 at Atlanta International. You're almost home." Lily exhaled shakily. "Copy that, runway 27. "Flaps down to 30 degrees, speed to 160 knots, Mark instructed. "Flaps 30, speed 160, she repeated, hands moving carefully. The clouds parted, and for the first time, the glowing city lights of Atlanta shone beneath her. The runway stretched out ahead like a glowing silver ribbon. The passengers behind her began to whisper, "We're going to make it." "Landing gear down," Lily said softly, pulling the lever. The metallic thud echoed through the cabin. The wheels were down. "Perfect," Mark said. "Now just ease her down, nice and smooth. You're doing incredible." The plane descended lower, 500 feet, 200 feet. Then a hard bump. The tires screeched, sparks flickered for a second, but the plane held steady. It bounced once, then settled firmly on the runway. "Thrust reverse," she murmured, pressing the lever like she'd practiced in her simulator. The aircraft slowed. 140 knots. 90, 60, and then silence. The plane rolled to a stop. The cabin erupted. Cheers, sobs, applause. Flight attendants hugged passengers. Some knelt in prayer. Lily removed her headset and just stared at the controls in disbelief. She had done it. She had saved 211 lives. Emergency teams rushed. On board, tending to the unconscious pilots who later recovered safely. Reporters flooded the terminal, cameras flashing, shouting, "How did you do it?" Lily simply said, "My dad taught me never to panic when others do." That evening, every major American news network carried the same headline. 16-year-old. Girl lands passenger jet after pilots collapse mid-flight. 211 lives saved. President's office called it a story of courage and calm under pressure. The FAA awarded Lily a special bravery medal, and her father, tears in his eyes, hugged her tightly on the runway. As the sun set behind her, Lily looked up at the orange sky and whispered, "I wasn't supposed to be the hero today, but maybe God had other plans." And from that day on, Flight 237 wasn't remembered for its crisis. It was remembered for the girl who refused to give up when everyone else was afraid. For the next 45 minutes, Lily Parker sat in the captain's seat, the controls trembling under her hands, her heart beating louder than the roar of the jet engines. Each minute felt like a lifetime. Every sound, every flickering light on the dashboard became a test of her focus. "Stay calm. Stay steady," she whispered to herself, her father's old lessons echoing in her mind. Flying is just thinking, not panicking. Below her, the landscape of Georgia stretched into the horizon. Faint lights, tiny towns, and a blanket of dark clouds. But up here, at 10,000 feet and descending, Lily was alone, with 201 souls depending on her. From the radio came the calm voice of Controller Mark Reynolds, a veteran air traffic officer with 20 years in the tower. "Lily, we've got 2 F-22 Raptors approaching you from the west. They'll fly alongside and help guide you visually to Atlanta." Lily peered out the window. Through the clouds, 2 sleek fighter jets appeared, their wings gleaming under the moonlight, engines humming in unison. One pilot radioed in, voice steady and warm. "Flight 237, this is Falcon 1. You're doing great, young lady. We've got you in sight. You're not alone up here." Tears welled in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll do my best." Inside the cabin, passengers held hands, whispering prayers. Some were crying quietly. A mother kissed her sleeping baby's forehead. An elderly man looked toward the cockpit and murmured, "God bless that child." No one screamed anymore. Fear had turned into fragile faith. "All right, Lily," Mark's voice came again. "You're lined up for runway 27 at Atlanta International. You're about 20 miles out. Time to lower flaps to 30 degrees and reduce your airspeed to 160 knots. Lily took a deep breath, hands shaking as she moved the levers. "Flaps 30, speed 160, she repeated softly, just like he told her. "Beautiful," Mark replied. "Now keep your nose level and follow the glide slope. You're doing better than most trained pilots." Outside, the night sky began to break, clouds glowing faintly as the lights of Atlanta sparkled below. The city looked peaceful, unaware of the miracle about to unfold above it. The cabin lights dimmed as the aircraft dropped through the final layer of clouds. The runway lights appeared ahead, a glowing path of white and gold stretching across the darkness. "Okay, Lily," came Mark's final guidance, his voice calm but emotional. "You're clear to land. When you touch down, pull the throttle back gently. Let the plane settle. You've got this." "Copy that," she said, her voice trembling. "Landing gear down." The wheels lowered with a deep metallic thud, the sound of hope. Passengers began whispering prayers again. Lily could hear them faintly behind her. She blinked back tears. "This is for you, Dad," she whispered. The ground approached fast. Her heart raced. "Easy, easy," she muttered, tightening her grip on the yoke. The wheels hit the tarmac with a hard bounce. The plane jolted, but Lily stayed focused. "Steady, steady." She eased the throttle back, pressed the brakes gently, and the jet slowed. Tires screeched, sparks flashed briefly beneath the wings. Then silence. They had stopped. For a moment there was nothing, no sound, no movement. Then the cabin erupted in applause, cheers, and tears. Strangers hugged each other, children cried, and one woman shouted, "She did it! The girl did it!" Lily sat still, her hands frozen on the controls, her chest heaving. She stared at the blinking lights of the cockpit, unable to process what she had just done. Paramedics rushed aboard, tending to the unconscious pilots. The co-pilot groaned softly, alive. Relief swept over the crew. A flight attendant knelt beside Lily, tears streaming down her face. "Sweetheart, you just saved every one of us." Lily looked at her, eyes wide. "Are we safe?" The woman nodded. "Yes, thanks to you." Outside, the tarmac was flooded with flashing red and blue lights. Fire trucks, ambulances, news vans, and airport officials. The fighter jets landed moments later, taxiing beside the massive passenger plane like guardian angels. As Lily stepped out of the cockpit, people clapped and reached out to thank her. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. She just stood there, overwhelmed. Emotional, trembling but calm. That night, the world changed for her. By sunrise, every major news outlet in America had the same headline: 16-year-old girl lands. Passenger jet after pilot's collapse mid-flight. 211 lives saved. Television anchors called her the angel of flight. 237. Newspapers dubbed her America's youngest hero pilot. Lily's story spread across the world, from CNN to BBC to small-town radio stations. Her calm voice recordings with the air traffic controller went viral online, leaving millions speechless. When reporters asked her, "How did you do it?" she simply said, "My dad taught me one thing: never panic when others do." The FAA honored her with a Medal of Civil Aviation Bravery, a rare award given only to those who saved lives in flight emergencies. The president himself sent a letter, calling her courage a reminder of what steady hearts can do under pressure. At a press conference days later, the pilots, now fully recovered, thanked her publicly. Captain Harris said tearfully, "That young woman did what even trained adults might have failed to do. She didn't just save us, she saved our families waiting at home." Lily's father, standing beside her, could barely hold back his tears. "I always told her," he said, "the sky belongs to those who don't give up." The moment ended with a standing ovation, reporters, officials, and even military officers applauding the 16-year-old who had defied fear at 18,000 feet. Weeks later, Lily returned to school. Her classmates treated her like a celebrity, but she stayed humble. When asked what she'd do next, she smiled shyly and said, "I think I'd like to become a real pilot, not just a lucky one." One afternoon, she visited the airport again, this time as an honorary guest in the control tower. Mark Reynolds, the controller who had guided her that night, met her in person for the first time. He smiled, shaking her hand. "You made history, kid," she grinned back. "You helped me write it." As the sun dipped below the horizon, a plane soared above, its silver wings glinting in the orange sky. Lily watched it quietly and whispered, "I wasn't supposed to be the hero today, but maybe God had other plans." And that day, America didn't just witness a flight emergency, it witnessed a story of courage, faith, and calm in chaos. A reminder that sometimes heroes don't wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear headphones, hold trembling hands on a yoke, and refuse to give up, even when the sky itself seems to fall. That's the story of Lily Parker, the Angel of Flight 237.